The message wasn't meant for me. I know that now. But when I picked up Sean's phone to silence the endless buzzing while he showered, I saw Malia's name flash across the screen. My cousin's voice filled our bedroom, thinking she was leaving a message for my husband. Hey, baby, last night was amazing. I love how we can laugh about her together. Poor clueless Gianna. Always so focused on work, she can't even see what's happening right under her nose. My hands didn't shake. My world crumbled, but somehow I remained standing. I'm Gianna Ross, and this is how I discovered my husband and cousin's betrayal. I deleted the message and placed the phone exactly where I found it. Then I went downstairs and made coffee like it was any other morning. When Sean came down, hair still damp, I handed him his usual cup. Thanks, babe, he said, kissing my cheek. You're always taking care of me. I smiled, imagining all the ways I could destroy him. Someone has to. That evening, I stayed late at the office, telling Sean I had a deadline. Instead, I sat in my car outside Malia's apartment building, watching my husband's familiar silhouette move behind her curtains. Their shadows merged, and I gripped my steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. Mrs. Dixon? A tap on my window startled me. Leon, our company's newest financial analyst, stood there looking concerned. Everything okay? I rolled down the window, forcing a smile. Just Leon, please. And yes, I'm fine. Just thinking. He glanced at the building, then back at me. Understanding flickered across his face. Would you like to grab a coffee? There's a place around the corner that stays open late. Over steaming cups of overpriced coffee, I found myself telling Leon everything. He listened without judgment, his dark eyes serious. You know, he said finally, your grandmother's been talking about succession plans for the company. I wrapped my hands around my cup. Aurora's mentioned it, yes. She watches everything, Gianna. She sees who puts in the work, who has the company's best interests at heart. He paused. And who doesn't? 2 days later, I attended a family dinner at Aurora's mansion. Sean and Malia were there, of course. They played their parts perfectly. My devoted husband, my loving cousin. But now I could see the lingering glances, the subtle touches, the inside jokes. Gianna, darling, Aurora called from the head of the table. Tell everyone about the Morrison contract you landed. Before I could answer, Malia cut in. Oh, Auntie, let's not talk business at dinner. It's so boring. I caught Aurora's sharp look at Malia's interruption. On the contrary, my grandmother said, I find my company's future fascinating. Please continue, Gianna. As I detailed the multi-million-dollar deal I'd secured, I watched Sean and Malia exchange glances. They thought I was oblivious, caught up in spreadsheets and meetings while they carried on their affair. They had no idea I could hear them whispering in the kitchen later. She's so cold, Malia said. All she cares about is work. No wonder you came looking for something warmer. Sean's laugh felt like acid in my ears. She makes it too easy. Sometimes I think she'd rather sleep with her laptop than me. I stepped into the kitchen, making them jump apart. Sean, ready to head home? I have an early meeting tomorrow. He smiled that charming smile that used to make my heart race. Sure, babe, whatever you need. That night, as Sean slept beside me, I opened my laptop and began gathering information. Every email, every transaction, every piece of dirt I could find on both of them. I worked until dawn, my determination growing with each discovery. My phone buzzed. A message from Leon. Found something interesting in the quarterly reports. Malia's department numbers don't add up. Coffee? I smiled, thinking of Aurora's words at dinner. The company's future was fascinating indeed, and I was just getting started. Looking at Sean's peaceful face, I felt nothing but cold resolve. Let them think I was weak. Let them believe I was blind. I'd show them just how focused I could be. Not just on spreadsheets, but on justice. I got up quietly and dressed for work, leaving before Sean woke. In my car, I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror. The woman staring back wasn't a victim. She was a force to be reckoned with, and she was done playing nice. Aurora's garden had always been her sanctuary, and lately it had become mine too. Every Saturday morning, I'd join her among the roses, helping her tend to the blooms while Sean slept in, probably dreaming of Malia. The white roses need extra attention, Aurora said, carefully pruning a stem. They're delicate but resilient, rather like you, my dear. I looked up from the flower bed I was weeding. I'm not sure about delicate. No? She set down her shears and fixed me with that penetrating gaze. Then tell me why you've been spending your evenings at the office instead of confronting that husband of yours. My hands froze in the dirt. You know? I'm old, Gianna, not blind. She patted the bench beside her. Come sit with me. As I settled next to her, she took my hand in her weathered one. Did you think I wouldn't notice how Malia looks at him? How he finds every excuse to be where she is? I didn't want to cause drama, I admitted. The company is exactly why you need to be strong now. Aurora's grip tightened. Tell me what you found. I told her everything. The message, the late nights, and what Leon had discovered about Malia's department finances. Aurora listened, her face growing harder with each detail. Interesting, she said when I finished. And what do you plan to do about it? Before I could answer, voices drifted from the house. Sean and Malia appeared on the patio, looking surprised to find us in the garden. Grandmother. Malia rushed over, all smiles. I didn't know you had company. I just stopped by to discuss the charity gala arrangements. With Sean? Aurora's voice could have frozen hell. Sean stepped forward, smooth as ever. I offered to help with the heavy lifting. You know, decorations and such. How thoughtful, Aurora said. Gianna, darling, would you fetch my folder from my study? The one marked succession planning? I felt Malia and Sean's eyes on me as I walked to the house. In Aurora's study, I found the folder right on her desk, as if she'd left it there deliberately. Inside were documents detailing the company's leadership structure, with my name highlighted throughout. When I returned, Aurora was explaining company history to an obviously bored Malia. Your great-grandfather built this company on trust and loyalty. Wouldn't you agree those are important values, Sean? Sean shifted uncomfortably. Of course, Aurora. Gianna understands these values, Aurora continued, taking the folder from me. She's proven herself time and again. Malia's smile faltered. We all work hard for the company, Auntie. Do you? Aurora opened the folder. These quarterly reports suggest otherwise. The color drained from Malia's face. Sean stepped closer to her, then caught himself. I should go, Malia stammered. The gala arrangements will be handled by someone else, Aurora finished. Gianna will take over the charity division. Won't you, dear? I met Malia's shocked stare. Happy to help. After they left, Aurora turned to me. The company needs strong leadership, Gianna. Someone who can make difficult decisions. Someone who understands that personal feelings must sometimes be set aside for the greater good. Like you did? I asked softly. She smiled. You know about Thomas, then? Your late husband's brother? Leon mentioned something about a similar situation 30 years ago. Thomas thought he could take what was mine. Aurora's eyes hardened. He learned otherwise, just as others will learn. She stood, brushing soil from her gardening gloves. There's a board meeting next week. I think it's time for some announcements. Aurora? I hesitated. Are you sure? About you? Entirely. She cupped my cheek. You're ready, even if you don't know it yet. That evening, I received a text from Malia. We need to talk. About the company. About everything. I showed the message to Leon over dinner at our usual coffee shop. She's scared, he said. They both are. You should have seen their faces when Aurora mentioned succession planning. I stirred my coffee, watching the cream create patterns. Good. What will you do when Malia wants to meet? I thought about Aurora's white roses, delicate but resilient. I'll listen, and then I'll do what needs to be done. Leon raised his cup. To difficult decisions? I clinked my cup against his. To the greater good. Later, as I walked into my empty house, my phone buzzed with another message. This one from Aurora. The board meeting has been moved up. Tuesday. Be ready. I was ready. Ready to show them all exactly what this clueless, work-focused woman could do. The weekend before the board meeting, I buried myself in work at the office, reviewing every document Leon had gathered. Krista, our head of operations, found me there Sunday morning, surrounded by papers and empty coffee cups. "I brought reinforcements," she said, placing a fresh latte and a stack of files on my desk. "And information." I looked up. About? About your cousin's creative accounting." Krista sat down, her face grim. "It's worse than we thought. She's been siphoning funds from the charity division for months." "Show me." She spread out documents across my desk, pointing to highlighted figures. "See these donations? They never reached their intended recipients. Instead, they went to shell companies. Guess who owns them?" "Malia?" "Close. Her lover." Krista's eyes met mine. "Your husband." The latte turned bitter in my mouth. "You have proof?" "Everything's here. Bank transfers, incorporation documents, even emails between them discussing the scheme." She paused. They got sloppy, thinking no one was watching. A knock at the door made us both jump. Leon entered, looking worried. "Gianna, Malia's downstairs. Says she won't leave until she talks to you." I gathered the documents into a folder. "Perfect timing. Send her up." Krista touched my arm. "Want us to stay?" "No, but keep your phones on." Malia swept in moments later, designer purse swinging. Her confident stride faltered when she saw the papers on my desk. "Working weekends again?" Her laugh sounded forced. "You never change." "What do you want, Malia?" She sat down uninvited. "To clear the air. This tension between us, it's not good for the family. For the company." "You mean it's not good for you?" "Don't be like that." She leaned forward. "Look, I know things are complicated, but we can fix this. Together." I opened the folder Krista had brought. "Like you fixed the charity division's finances?" Her face paled. "What are you talking about?" "Shell companies, Malia?" "Really?" I slid a document across the desk. "Did you think no one would notice?" "Those are confidential. They're evidence." I stood up. "Evidence of fraud, embezzlement, and breach of trust. How do you think the board will react?" She jumped to her feet. "You wouldn't dare. It would destroy the company's reputation. Unless we come to an arrangement." Her composure returned slightly. I stepped down quietly. Take a position at another firm. No scandal, no shame for the family. "And Sean?" Her smile turned cruel. "He made his choice, Gianna. Maybe if you'd been a better wife." My laugh cut her off. "Better at what? Turning a blind eye to theft? Playing along while you two made a fool of me?" "We can all walk away from this," she said. "Think about it. I'll tell Aurora I'm pursuing other opportunities. Sean will transfer to our overseas office. Everyone saves face." My phone buzzed. A message from Leon. "Aurora's here. She wants to see both of you." "Perfect timing," I said, gathering the files. "Shall we visit grandmother together?" We found Aurora in her office, Leon and Krista already there. My grandmother sat regally behind her desk, looking every inch the CEO. "Sit," she commanded. Malia started speaking immediately. "Auntie, I can explain." Silence. Aurora's voice cracked like a whip. "Gianna, the documents?" I handed over the folder. Aurora reviewed its contents while Malia squirmed in her chair. "Well," Aurora said finally, "it seems the board meeting tomorrow will be even more interesting than planned." "Please," Malia whispered. "Don't do this." "Do what? Protect my company? Protect my true family?" Aurora's eyes blazed. "You had every advantage, every opportunity. And this is how you repay that trust?" Tears spilled down Malia's cheeks. "I never meant to get caught," I finished. "That's the only thing you're sorry about." Aurora pressed a button on her phone. Security will escort you out, Malia. Don't return without a lawyer. As Malia was led away, Aurora turned to me. Are you ready for tomorrow? Yes. Good. She smiled. Because after the board meeting, you'll need to have a similar conversation with your husband. I thought of Sean, probably waiting at Malia's apartment for news of her attempted negotiation. I'm looking forward to it. Later, as Leon drove me home, he asked, How are you holding up? I watched the city lights blur past. I feel lighter, like I've been carrying this weight, and it's finally lifting. The hard part's still coming. No, I said, thinking of tomorrow's meeting. The hard part was pretending to be weak. Everything else is just justice. My phone buzzed with a message from Sean. Where are you? We need to talk. I typed back. Yes, we do. Tomorrow, after the board meeting. Justice was coming, and it would be served in the boardroom. The boardroom buzzed with tension as executives filed in. Sean sat near the middle, checking his phone every few seconds. Malia's seat remained conspicuously empty. I took my place beside Aurora, ignoring the questioning glances from board members. Where's Malia? Someone whispered. Indisposed, Aurora answered, her voice carrying across the room. Now, shall we begin? Krista distributed folders to each member while Leon queued up the presentation. I caught Sean's eye as he opened his folder. His face went ash white. Before we discuss quarterly results, Aurora began, I have several announcements regarding leadership changes. Sean's hand shot up. Excuse me, Aurora, but shouldn't we wait for all department heads to be present? The relevant parties are here. Aurora's smile could have frozen fire. As I was saying, changes are coming. First, effective immediately, Malia is no longer with the company. Murmurs rippled through the room. Sean gripped his armrests. Second, Aurora continued, our internal audit has uncovered significant irregularities in the charity division's finances. The details are in your folders, along with the steps we're taking to address these issues. Board members flipped through pages, gasps and whispers growing louder. Sean started to stand. Sit down, Mr. Dixon, Aurora commanded. We're not finished. He sank back into his chair, sweat visible on his forehead. Finally, Aurora's voice softened as she turned to me. I'm announcing my retirement as CEO, effective next month. The room erupted in shocked exclamations. Aurora raised her hand for silence. My successor has already been chosen. Someone who has demonstrated unwavering loyalty, exceptional business acumen, and most importantly, integrity. She placed her hand on my shoulder. My granddaughter, Gianna. Sean jumped to his feet. This is ridiculous. She's not qualified. Sit down, I said quietly. Unless you'd like to discuss qualifications, like your involvement in embezzling charity funds? He froze, eyes darting between me and the door. Security is outside. Leon added helpfully, in case anyone feels the need to leave abruptly. The next hour passed in a blur of congratulations and questions. I answered each one clearly, confidently, while Sean slumped in his chair, defeated. When Aurora finally dismissed the board, he tried to rush out. Mr. Dixon, I called. A moment, please. The room emptied except for us, Leon and Krista. Sean stood by the door, looking like a cornered animal. How long have you known? He asked. Long enough. I opened my laptop. Would you like to see the evidence? The messages? The bank transfers? Or should we skip to the part where you sign these? I slid divorce papers across the table. You can't prove anything, he said, but his voice shook. Krista stepped forward. Actually, we can prove everything. The DA's office is very interested in your shell companies. You'd do that? He stared at me. Send me to prison? You did that to yourself. I pushed the papers closer. Sign, and maybe we can arrange a deal. Refuse, and I'll let the prosecutors handle it. His hand trembled as he picked up the pen. I never meant to hurt you. Yes, you did. I watched him sign. You and Malia thought it was funny, remember? Poor, clueless Gianna, too focused on work to see what was happening. We were wrong, he whispered. Yes, you were. I gathered the papers. Security will escort you out. Don't come back. After he left, Leon squeezed my shoulder. You okay? Better than okay. I looked around the boardroom. My boardroom now. I'm exactly where I need to be. My phone buzzed with a message from Malia. This isn't over. I know things about the family, about Aurora, things that could ruin everything. I showed the message to Aurora, who laughed. Let her try. Every family has secrets, but not every family has proof of criminal activity. What do we do now? Krista asked. Now? I sat in the CEO's chair. My chair. Now we clean house. Every corrupt deal, every questionable transaction, everything they touched gets reviewed. And Malia's threats? Leon asked. Let her make them. I thought of the white roses in Aurora's garden. Some things need to be pruned for the garden to thrive. Aurora patted my hand. I knew I chose well. That evening, as I packed up Sean's things, another message arrived. You'll regret this. Both of you will. I smiled, thinking of tomorrow's headlines. Ross Industries announces new CEO amid financial scandal. Let them threaten. Let them scheme. I wasn't hiding anymore. I was ready to show them exactly what happens when you underestimate the woman behind the spreadsheets. The media storm hit exactly as expected. By morning, my face was plastered across business news channels, with headlines screaming about scandal and succession. I watched from my office as reporters camped outside the building, hungry for more details. Your 9 o'clock is here, my assistant announced through the intercom. Send them in. Sean walked in, looking disheveled, a far cry from his usual polished appearance. Gianna, please, we need to talk. About what? I kept my eyes on my laptop. The divorce papers are signed. About us, about everything. He sat down uninvited. I made a mistake, a huge mistake, but we can fix this. I finally looked at him. Fix what? Your impending fraud charges? Or the fact that you and Malia stole from children's charities? That was her idea, he said quickly. She convinced me to commit crimes. I laughed. How convenient. I'll testify against her. Tell them everything. He leaned forward. Just help me, for old time's sake. A knock interrupted his plea. Leon entered with a stack of documents. Sorry to interrupt, he said, not sounding sorry at all. But we found something interesting in the overseas accounts. Sean's face went pale. What overseas accounts? The ones in Singapore, I said. Did you think we wouldn't find those too? You can't what? Report international financial fraud? Pretty sure I can. I stood up. In fact, I already have. His composure cracked. You bitch, you've ruined everything. Security, I called calmly. 2 guards appeared instantly. As they escorted Sean out, he shouted, Malia was right about you. You're just like your grandmother. Cold, calculating. Successful? I finished as the doors closed. Leon whistled low. That was intense. That was necessary. I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from Malia. Any word from our other problem? She's been trying to schedule meetings with board members. No takers so far. He grinned. Apparently, no one wants to associate with someone under federal investigation. My phone buzzed again. Aurora this time. Come to the house. Bring the Singapore files. I found Aurora in her study, looking through old photographs. She held one up as I entered. A younger version of herself standing in front of the company building. They called me cold back then, too, she said. When I took over from your grandfather, said a woman couldn't handle it. Look how that turned out. She smiled. Indeed. Now show me what you found. I spread out the Singapore documents. Sean was smarter than we thought. He had backup accounts separate from Malia's scheme. And I've frozen all of them. I showed her the court orders. He's broke. They both are. Aurora nodded approvingly. Good. But Malia's threats are empty, Leon said from the doorway. Sorry to interrupt, but you need to see this. He played a video on his tablet, Malia giving an interview to a local news station. She was crying, claiming family betrayal and wrongful termination. She's desperate, I said. She's dangerous, Aurora corrected. Desperate people do desperate things. My phone chimed with a message from Krista. Emergency at the office. Board members calling for an immediate meeting. Perfect timing, Aurora said. Ready to show them what you're made of? The boardroom was chaos when we arrived. Board members argued amongst themselves while Krista tried to maintain order. Enough. My voice cut through the noise. What's the emergency? This, someone said, sliding a tablet across the table. On screen was an old article about Aurora's takeover 30 years ago. Below it, anonymous comments alleged family betrayals, secret deals, and questionable methods. Malia's handiwork? Leon whispered. I smiled. Is this the emergency? Old gossip and anonymous accusations? Your grandmother, one board member began, built this company into what it is today. I finished, and I'm about to make it even stronger. I plugged my laptop into the projector. Now, let me show you my plans for the next quarter, unless you'd rather discuss ancient history. For the next hour, I laid out strategies, innovations, and growth projections. By the end, even the most skeptical board members were nodding along. Any questions? I asked finally. Silence. Good, because we have work to do. Later, as Leon drove me home, he asked, Think that's the end of it? No, I said, reading another threatening message from Malia. But the next move is hers. And then I thought of the Singapore accounts, of Sean's desperate plea, of Malia's tearful interview. And then I finish what they started. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't served cold. It's served in quarterly reports and profit margins. And I was just getting started. Krista burst into my office without knocking, her face flushed with excitement. You need to see this. Now. She dropped a folder on my desk labeled Charity Division Restricted Access. What am I looking at? I asked, flipping it open. The smoking gun. She pointed to a series of signatures. Malia wasn't just stealing from the charities. She was selling company secrets to our competitors. I sat up straighter. Proof? Emails, meeting recordings, everything. Krista pulled out her tablet. But here's the best part. Listen to this. She played an audio file. Malia's voice filled the room. Of course I can get you those patents. My cousin's too busy playing CEO to notice what's happening in R&D. Just make sure the payment goes through the usual channel. When was this recorded? Yesterday. Krista's smile was fierce. She's still at it, even after everything. My phone buzzed. Leon. Emergency. Aurora's office. Now. We found Aurora at her desk, looking grimmer than I'd ever seen her. Leon stood nearby, holding a newspaper. What's wrong? I asked. Leon handed me the paper. The headline made my blood run cold. Ross Industries scandal deepens. Former CEO accused of corporate espionage. Malia's latest attack, Aurora said quietly. She's claiming I stole company secrets during my takeover 30 years ago. Says she has proof. Does she? No, Leon cut in. But she has something else. Something worse. He played a video on his laptop. Malia sat in what looked like a news studio, composed and professional. I have evidence, she said smoothly, that Aurora Ross orchestrated her own brother's death to gain control of the company. And now her granddaughter is following in her footsteps, destroying lives to maintain power. The room fell silent. Aurora's hands trembled slightly. It's a lie, she whispered. Thomas died in a car accident. We know, I said firmly. But we need to handle this carefully. My phone rang, Sean's number. I answered on speaker. Call off your attack dog, he demanded. The SEC is investigating me because of your accusations. You mean because of your crimes? I corrected. I'll back Malia's story, he threatened. Tell everyone how you and Aurora planned this whole thing, how you set us up. Krista cleared her throat. Actually, Mr. Dixon, I'd reconsider that. We have some interesting recordings of your own recent activities. She played the audio file. Sean's voice died mid-threat. That's blackmail, he sputtered. No, I said. That's karma. Now, unless you want the SEC to hear about your latest scheme, I suggest you stop talking to reporters. After hanging up, I turned to Aurora. We need to end this. Today. How? Leon asked. I pulled out my phone and dialed Malia's number, putting it on speaker. She answered on the first ring. Finally ready to negotiate? Come to the office, I said. 1 hour. Bring your evidence. All of it? She sounded smug. Every last lie. It's time we settled this. After hanging up, Krista raised an eyebrow. You have a plan? Always. I turned to Aurora. But I need your trust. Completely. She reached for my hand. You've had that since the beginning. For the next hour, we prepared. Leon gathered security footage. Krista organized financial records. Aurora made some calls. At exactly 1 hour, my assistant announced Malia's arrival. She walked in like she owned the place, designer handbag swinging. Ready to beg for mercy? She asked. I gestured to the chair across from me. Ready to tell the truth? She sat down, pulling out a folder. Here's my truth. Your grandmother murdered my father. You stole my position, and now you're going to prison. I finished. Her smile faltered. What? I pressed a button on my desk. The door opened, revealing 2 FBI agents. Corporate espionage is a federal crime, I said as Malia's face drained of color. So is conspiracy to commit fraud. Would you like to see your truth? The agent stepped forward as I played Krista's recording. Malia lunged for her bag, but Leon was faster. The patents you tried to sell? I continued. They were fakes. We've been tracking your moves for weeks. You can't, she started. Can't what? Protect my company? My family? I stood up. You should have remembered something, Malia. I learned from the best. As the agents led her away, she screamed, You're just like her. A cold-hearted bit. The door closed, cutting off her words. Leon whistled. That was justice, I finished. Now let's clean up this mess. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't just about winning, it's about making sure they never forget who beat them. And Malia would have plenty of time to remember in federal prison. The news of Malia's arrest exploded across media channels. I watched from my office as reporters swarmed the building entrance, hungry for comments. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing since morning. Your 3 o'clock is here, my assistant announced. Sean walked in, looking nothing like the confident man who'd once shared my bed. His suit was wrinkled, his eyes haunted. I can explain everything, he started. Save it. I motioned to the chair. Sit. He sat, hands fidgeting. The FBI questioned me for hours, about Malia, about the money, about the evidence you promised to give them. I interrupted. His head snapped up. How did you know you turned informant? I smiled. Who do you think suggested it to them? Leon entered, carrying a thick folder. Everything's ready. Perfect timing. I opened the folder. So, Sean, let's discuss your immunity deal. What immunity deal? The one you're about to sign. I slid papers across the desk. In exchange for your full testimony against Malia and her contacts. He grabbed the papers, reading frantically. This would keep me out of prison? Mostly, Leon said. You'll still face penalties, but no jail time. Why would you help me? I leaned forward. Because watching you testify against your lover will be so much more satisfying than watching you rot in prison. His hands shook as he signed. What happens now? Now? I pressed the intercom. Now you tell everything to them. Two federal agents entered. Sean's face went pale. "Remember?" I said as they led him out. "Every detail. Every meeting, every transaction. Don't leave anything out." After they left, Leon whistled. Brutal. Necessary. I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from Aurora. "How's the press handling it?" "See for yourself." He turned on the TV. Malia's arrest footage played on repeat, followed by clips of Sean entering the federal building. "Ross Industries CEO uncovers major financial scandal." The headline read. My phone buzzed again. Krista this time. "Emergency board meeting called. They're demanding answers." Good. I gathered my files. Time to end this. The boardroom was packed when I arrived. Board members whispered among themselves, papers rustling nervously. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, "you've all seen the news. Now let me tell you the truth." For the next hour, I laid out everything. The fraud, the attempted corporate espionage, the international accounts. With each revelation, the whispers died down. "Questions?" I asked finally. One board member raised his hand. The accusations against Aurora were lies. I projected documents onto the screen. Here's proof of Thomas's accident. Medical reports, police statements, everything Malia claimed didn't exist. "And the company's reputation?" I smiled. "Will be stronger than ever. Nothing builds trust like exposing corruption from within." The room fell silent. Then, slowly, heads began nodding. "Well done," someone said softly. I turned. Aurora stood in the doorway looking proud. "Meeting adjourned," I announced. As the room emptied, Aurora approached. "You handled that perfectly. I learned from the best." "Did you?" She touched my arm. "Then you know this isn't over." My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "You think you've won? I still have one card left to play. Check tomorrow's papers." "Malia's final threat," I said, showing Aurora. She laughed. "Let her try. We have something she doesn't." "What's that?" "The truth." She squeezed my hand. And each other. Later that evening, as I packed up my office, Leon brought coffee. "Heard from our friends at the FBI," he said. "Sean's singing like a bird. Named every contact, every deal." "And Malia? Still threatening to reveal family secrets." He paused. "Think she actually has any?" I thought of Aurora's strength, of the lessons she'd taught me. "Doesn't matter. We have something better." "Yeah? What's that?" "Tomorrow." I picked up my bag. "Want to watch me destroy what's left of their world?" He grinned. "Wouldn't miss it." My phone buzzed one last time. Another unknown number. "You're just like your grandmother. This isn't over." I smiled, thinking of Aurora's white roses. Strong, beautiful, and absolutely lethal when underestimated. "No," I whispered. "It's not over. It's just beginning." Because tomorrow I would show them exactly what it means to be my grandmother's granddaughter. And they would never forget it. The morning papers landed on my desk with a satisfying thud. Malia's promised bombshell had turned into her final implosion. Instead of family secrets, the headlines screamed about her complete confession, detailing every crime, every scheme, every betrayal. "Quite a read," Leon said, bringing coffee. "Especially the part about Sean's testimony." "Did you see page 6? I handed him the paper. Apparently, my soon-to-be ex-husband broke down crying during his deposition. My phone lit up. Aurora calling. "Turn on the news, now." The TV flickered to life just in time to catch Malia being led from the courthouse in handcuffs. Her designer outfit had been replaced by prison orange, her confident smirk by desperate tears. "I was protecting the family," she screamed at the cameras. "Aurora's the real criminal. The reporter cut in. "Ms. Townsend's allegations against former CEO Aurora Ross have been thoroughly discredited, with evidence showing her claims were fabricated to cover up her own crimes." Krista burst into the office. You need to see this email. She thrust her tablet at me. On screen was a message from Malia, sent to every board member. Final offer. $10 million to keep quiet about what really happened 30 years ago. She doesn't give up, does she? Leon muttered. No, I said, standing. But I do. I pressed the intercom. Call a press conference, 1 hour. The company atrium filled quickly. Reporters, employees, board members. Aurora sat in the front row, elegant as ever. I took the podium, cameras flashing. You've all read the headlines, I began, about fraud, betrayal, and family secrets. So let me tell you a real secret. The room hushed. 30 years ago, my grandmother took control of this company not through murder or manipulation, but through dedication and brilliance. The same values she taught me. The same values that helped us uncover recent crimes. I gestured to the screens behind me, showing documentation of Malia and Sean's schemes. But this isn't about the past. It's about the future. Today, I'm announcing a complete restructuring of our charity division. Every penny stolen will be repaid. Every program strengthened, every promise kept. Applause broke out. I raised my hand for silence. And to those who thought they could destroy us with lies and threats? I smiled directly into the cameras, knowing Malia would be watching from her cell. Thank you. You taught us exactly who not to be. The room erupted in cheers. As I stepped down, Aurora embraced me. Perfect, she whispered. Absolutely perfect. My phone buzzed. A message from Sean's lawyer. Divorce papers finalized. He relinquishes all claims. Another buzz. The FBI. Ms. Townsend requests one final meeting. Going to see her? Leon asked. I deleted the message. Nothing left to say. Later that evening, I found Aurora in her garden, tending her white roses. Remember what you said about these? She asked. About them being delicate but resilient? Like me, you said. She smiled. No, like us. She cut a perfect bloom, handing it to me. Beautiful, strong, and absolutely lethal when threatened. I learned from the best. You did more than learn. She touched my cheek. You improved on every lesson. My phone buzzed one last time. A news alert. Malia Townsend sentenced. 15 years for corporate fraud. Was it worth it? Aurora asked softly. The pain? The betrayal? I looked around at the garden, thinking of everything that had led to this moment. The discovery of Sean's affair. Malia's smugness. Their certainty that I was too weak, too focused on work to fight back. Every second, I said. Because sometimes revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. It's about becoming so powerful they destroy themselves trying to tear you down. The board wants to discuss expansion plans, I said, standing, ready to watch me build something even bigger? Aurora linked her arm through mine. Lead the way. As we walked inside, I caught my reflection in the window. The woman staring back wasn't a victim anymore. She wasn't even just a survivor. She was a force of nature, shaped by betrayal, but not broken by it. Strengthened by pain, but not hardened against love. Ready to create something magnificent from the ashes of destruction. And she was just getting started. Because the best revenge isn't just about winning the game. It's about changing the rules entirely. And that's exactly what I plan to do. Starting now.